I'm an infectious disease doctor at the Hospital for Tropical Diseases in London. I study viruses and conflicts of interest, and I also present Operation Ouch on Children's BBC, so you may be used to me talking about the more puerile aspects of human biology. Today on Inside Health, I'm going to be visiting a travel clinic that helps people with complex medical conditions travel around the world safely. Margaret will be telling us about one of her bugbears, patient blaming. And first, we start with cataract surgery. You'll be hearing disturbing stories today from two people, although we've spoken to more, who've told Inside Health that they believe they were subject to a hard sell for cataract surgery in the private sector. First of all, some context. What is a cataract and when should you get cataract surgery? Mike Burden is president of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists.
A cataract is a clouding of the lens within your eye. Most of the time, the lens when you're young is like clear glass. But as we get older, it starts to become more and more frosted like bathroom glass, and eventually you can't see out of it. So cataract surgery involves doing an operation to remove the cloudy lens and put in a replacement lens.
When and how do you make the decision about when to do the surgery? Who should have it?
That has fortunately been the subject of quite an extensive review, principally by the NICE Cataract Guidelines Committee, which I have to declare an interest I chaired. But essentially, it becomes a very simple decision. Cataract surgery should be offered to patients when they're aware that their quality of life is being compromised by their eyesight, and in consultation with the surgeon or his team that is going to do the operation, when the surgeon believes that doing the cataract operation will improve that person's vision and therefore their quality of life.
I'd urge any of you to go online and search for cataract surgery videos. As we say on Operation Ouch, it is not for the squeamish, but done well, this is the pinnacle of modern medicine. Under a surgical microscope, a tiny incision is made in the front of the eye using a diamond blade. Then a minuscule ultrasound machine is used to break up the cataract within the lens and simultaneously suck it out before a new folded lens is inserted and opened up inside the eye. It's the most common operation we do in the NHS, 350,000 a year, but there's a booming private sector as well, and this is where we've been investigating. One of the largest private providers in the UK is Optical Express, who have a chain of over 100 clinics, and they offer free eye consultations and can then refer to in-house Optical Express ophthalmic surgeons if needed. Now, the offer of a free eye test appealed to Surinder Beant, who's a retired science teacher. He's in his 80s, and he'd noticed a slight blurriness when he was tired and reading in the evening. So he made an appointment to go to Optical Express in Manchester for a general eye checkup. His daughter, Leela, told me what happened next.
I've seen the letter of appointment that was sent to him, and it says, "Thank you for considering surgery with Optical Express." This was before the consultation even occurred. He and my mother and their small granddaughter went for the consultation, and my father was examined and told that he would benefit from cataract surgery.
This news was a shock to her father, Surinder. He has regular eye checkups, and his normal optician hadn't mentioned anything about cataracts at his last visit.
Well, I was really concerned about it, and I didn't think that my eyes were that bad. I did ask them that, can I get it done at the NHS? And they said that, well, the service the NHS provide is not very efficient, and their operation and their surgeons, they were top-notch surgeons. And with the National Health Service, I might not get the service that they will provide.
Did they give you a sense of how much it would cost?
Yes, they told me something around £7,000. And they also gave me papers to see that they will arrange the finances for me as well.
Were you feeling that you should have this operation, or were you feeling maybe that you weren't at ease with this?
I wasn't at ease with what they said to me. I told my daughter about this, and then she got worried. And
how did you feel when you walked out?
I was with my granddaughter in the consultation, and she turned around to say, "Wow, 7,000." I wasn't going to have it. I didn't have the money or the feeling that I want to get that operation done.
Leela, Mr. Beant's daughter, is in fact Professor Leela Beant, consultant hip and knee surgeon and clinical professor of orthopaedics at the University of Manchester.
Now, I was a little bit reticent because my father didn't appear to be having any issues with his normal day-to-day vision. So I did ask a colleague if they would mind to have a look at him. The consultant that looked at him assessed his right eye to be grade 1 out of 10 in terms of cataract, and even less on the left. And he said that he didn't need to have any surgery. It wasn't interfering with his day-to-day life, the cataract element of it, and that he may never need it during his lifetime. So this was quite concerning.
And did you ever hear from the optometrists again?
Well, since I left their office, they rang me twice, I think twice or three times. I was surprised that the phone call, they kept saying to me, what is making you not come to this place? I said, I'm consulting with my wife and we haven't decided that we want to get it done.
Did you feel like you might change your mind and that maybe you should spend £7,000 and you were being unwise?
No way I was going to spend £7,000.
It sounds like you're surrounded by family, especially medically educated family. Do you think someone else might have felt pressurised into having this £7,000 private operation?
I think if somebody like me went down and they saw this advertisement and free consultation, it is possible that they might get pressurised into going ahead with them.
I was a little bit uncomfortable at him being issued consent forms and contracts and a glossy brochure to come home with, and then being contacted subsequently on a few occasions. I don't think that's appropriate practice.
Leela, Professor Biant, was disturbed by what she saw as a hard sell for surgery that her father didn't want and didn't think he needed.
As a surgeon myself, the fact that my father was offered unnecessary surgery, and well, I'm a hip and knee surgeon, and if somebody came to me with an ache in the knee, I wouldn't say have a knee replacement so you'll never get arthritis in your knee. And that would be my analogy of it. It's just unnecessary and expensive and pressurizing older people into something they may not need. And obviously surgery of any kind comes with risks, and therefore I found that entirely unacceptable.
Professor Leela Biant and her father Surinder. Now, as consultant ophthalmologist Mike Burden explained, cataract surgery should be offered to patients when they feel their eyesight is affecting their quality of life and when the surgeon is confident that the procedure will address this and improve their vision. There's a subjective element to this. Different people will have a different interpretation of how their quality of life is affected by cataracts. And while Mr. Biant had sought advice about some blurring, he clearly didn't feel he needed surgery, but he still felt pressurised to sign up for it. So how common is that experience? President of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists, Mike Burden.
From time to time recently, I have had patients said to me, I went for my routine checkup, I was diagnosed as having cataract and I found myself being referred to this hospital or this centre to have treatment, and I'm just not quite sure what happened because I don't think that I've got a problem.
In the cases you're talking about, did they end up needing surgery or not?
Both the case that I recall recently actually said, well, I'll come back when I think I've got a problem.
Our patient, Mr. Biant, said he was telephoned at home after he'd been to this consultation. And we know, because we have the bundle of promotional material he was sent home with, having said that he didn't want the surgery, and he seems to have been very consistent about this. It seems really peculiar that he was sent home with all this material, the consent forms, a finance package for an operation that he didn't think he needed.
I think this does need a proper discussion with the company involved and opportunity for them to justify themselves. But I think it does need looking at.
Mr. Biant's story made us at Inside Health wonder about whether there might be staff incentives to refer patients for surgery. So we asked Optical Express this question, but they wouldn't answer specifically. We have, however, seen emails and promotional material, internal Optical Express documents from a couple of years ago, 2018, which refer to bonuses and rewards.
Welcome to today's Refractive Super Saturday, Touchdown for Success.
These documents showed evidence of prize draws when patients are booked in for surgery. Staff could win shopping vouchers and vouchers for Michelin-starred restaurants.
Get as many patients as possible booked into the platinum and golden slots. Patients in these prime slots will contribute towards your bonus.
I spoke with another patient, Sam Begum, in Glasgow. Now, she went to Optical Express. Like Mr. Biant, she was attracted by the free consultation. She'd had retinal problems in the past, but nobody had mentioned cataract before. After all the tests had been done, she was called in by one of the optometrists.
Pretty much straight away, she looked in my eyes and looked at my left eye and said that I had a cataract in that eye. I was totally shocked and taken aback. I was like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yes." And then she says, "Well, let me check your right eye." And she said, "Oh," and I was like, "What?" She says, "You've got a cataract in that too." And that just totally just stunned me, because it was the last thing I expected. And, with everything going on in life, work, and most importantly, I'm my disabled brother's carer. And I was confused because visually I was fine. I was getting by. And there was, if somebody says cataract to you, you immediately think, I'm going to go blind.
What do they then suggest?
I says, "What's the options?" And she said, the only option would be surgery, lens replacement surgery. And she said, "You can just come in and we can do the lens replacement. We can do both eyes at the same day."
So they were proposing doing both cataracts within a few days of this shock diagnosis.
Correct. They were proposing, come in and we'll just do surgery on you.
One of the things we think is really important before you have cataract surgery is whether or not your cataracts are impacting your quality of life. At any stage, were you feeling that you might have these cataracts and that they were actually having a substantial impact on your quality of life?
At that moment in time, there was no impact on my quality of life, because I literally went on my ski holiday and I was skiing down black and red runs like there's no tomorrow.
Despite feeling pressurised by Optical Express to book for surgery on both eyes, she insisted that she would do one at a time. So she paid £3,500 in February last year for surgery on her left eye. In the weeks following the operation, problems with her retina became worse.
A few weeks after the surgery, my vision started going backward and it started becoming blurry and just strange, and my eye felt odd. And eventually I started seeing an eclipse in the lower half of my eye, which started to get bigger and bigger. And eventually they called me in and immediately diagnosed a detached retina.
What did you think was going on while this eclipse was moving across your eye, or what might happen?
Just lose my sight. It was my worst nightmare come true.
Sam had surgeries for the detached retina organised by Optical Express, and unbelievably, as she was coming to terms with a significant loss of vision in her left eye, she was still receiving phone calls from Optical Express about the proposed cataract surgery on her right eye.
So I got a call a week after the retina detachment surgery asking when I can book in for the right eye, and explained to the girl that I'm blind in my left eye after the last surgery. It says, "Update your records, please, and don't call me again." And then I got further calls a few months later and an email asking if I had any financial questions.
All of last year, Sam was struggling with the huge sight problems following the detached retina in the left eye. But she was also worrying about her right eye, which, according to Optical Express, had a cataract in it.
I experienced some worsening vision in my left eye, which got me in a panic. So I went to my local opticians. They had a look and they reassured me. So whilst I was there, they checked out my right eye. And the first question I said to them was, "I've been told by Optical Express I've got a cataract in my right eye. Can you please tell me the status of it?" Because, they could see how bad my left eye was. So the opticians had a look and they said that your right eye's fine. There's no issue with cataracts.
Fine.
Yeah. And I said, "Can you check again?" And he called a colleague over to have a look, and she said the lens was fine and clear.
This is, in fact, a year after you were first diagnosed at Optical Express. You finally get the news that, in fact, according to two other optometrists, they don't think you do have a cataract in that right
Correct.
eye.
It was like a huge weight has been lifted. I said, "So I don't need to worry about any surgery or anything. I'm not going to go blind." They're like, no, you're fine. And it was like somebody gave me my life back to some extent. I'm very aware of the problems that will stay with me on the left eye side, but to have that weight lifted on the right eye so that I can at least continue daily life. I may not be able to do as much of the things I used to do, and my quality of life has changed, but the fact that, I'm not going to go blind, it's a big weight off my mind.
Optical Express wouldn't answer any specific questions about either Surinder Biant or Sam Begum, but they did send us this statement.
Optical Express compared their outcome data of patients they performed cataract surgery on against published NHS reports. In this regard, surgery at Optical Express is evidenced to be both safer and more effective in its outcome delivery across a wide range of important categories than that identical procedure performed under the NHS. Over 99% of patients would recommend Optical Express to friends and family.
We also spoke to other former patients of Optical Express who told us they too had experienced what felt to them like a hard sell for surgery. Now, the optical professions, optometrists, dispensing opticians and optical businesses, are regulated by the General Optical Council. They wouldn't give us an interview, but they did give us this statement.
The General Optical Council takes seriously any allegations of inappropriate clinical referral, or where patients think they have been coerced into undergoing unnecessary treatment or treatment that they do not want.
That was the General Optical Council.